My name is Katie Tallis, and this is my case study 3 for my field work experience in ABA for Special Education 689, Section 811, with Dr. Michael Henderson for the fall semester 2024. So the objectives of this is to detail the methodology for training and supporting staff, and discuss measures of validity and treatment integrity. So first we'll start by talking about behavior skills training. So then how we can better support staff, how we can measure validity, how we can measure treatment integrity, and then finally we'll follow it up with integration of the BACB task list items. So behavior skills training, what is it? It is an evidence-based training method that aims to teach new skills using a systematic approach. First, we start with instruction. This provides clear and concise explanation of the desired skill or behavior to the learner. In this case, it's going to be our behavior therapist. Next, we do modeling. So we demonstrate the correct way to perform the desired skill or behavior, which allows the learner to observe and understand expectations. Next, we rehearse. So we allow the learner to practice the skill or behavior, receiving guidance and support from the supervisor. Finally, we have feedback. So the supervisor provides feedback on the learner's performance, pointing out areas for improvement and reinforcing aspects done well. Ways that we can support staff through this model are task analysis. So we break down the complex skills or behaviors into smaller, manageable steps. And then we have shaping, so gradually modifying and refining a learner's behavior through positive reinforcement. We have prompting, providing cues or assistance to guide the learner in performing the desired behavior. And finally, chaining, teaching the individual steps of a sequence, then combining them to form the complete skills or behavior. A good example of all of this is really when we're working on teaching a behavioral therapist DTT instruction. We don't teach them every single part of DTT at one time. We might start with transitions to the table, pairing at the table, and then running mastered skills, and then, working on error correction and um, uh, uh, running, skill acquisition targets. And then finally, they're at a place where they can do it all. And we provide prompts through each section and each procedure of the training process, and at the end, we have a full task analysis broken down for that. So measures and validity for and treatment integrity for the behavior intervention that I have created for this client really starts with his uh, headbanging behavior, or not headbanging, but self-injurious behaviors. So we're going to focus on a lot of non-contingent reinforcement, and I'll talk about that more later. So ways we can assess validity are through data, behavior data, and graphs to assess for decreases in maladaptive behavior. So we want to know that our intervention is actually working, and we can see that if the behavior data for self-injurious behaviors go down. We can also speak with stakeholders and parents to gain their perspective on the effectiveness of the intervention. We spend a lot of time with this client, but also parents do, so they can also notice those changes and provide us with information on how well, if they are noticing decreases in the behavior. Also, direct observation of intervention procedures to assess their effectiveness in treating maladaptive behavior. The BCBA can gain a lot of knowledge just from watching it and seeing how the intervention is progressing, and notice those subtle cues if it's not really affecting, the behavior very much. So treatment integrity, this is more so about the therapist and how they are implementing the intervention. So a great way to do this is also through direct observation. So we can see if they're running it appropriately because we know it pretty well as a BCBA, but some concrete data that we can give to them is IOA data or inter-observer agreement data. So we record alongside the staff any instances of behavior and we look to make sure that they're recording the same instances that we're seeing, and then we can have a conversation if they vary or if we're on track. Also, self-assessment. We can ask the staff to recall the implementation of their procedure right after it happens and see if how aware they are if they're missing steps. This is obviously going to be with a seasoned therapist. And maybe, once they've had some training on the intervention, we'll do that specifically later down the line. Um, we would never ask a new therapist to do this right away, not without having the intervention protocol right in front of them, which they should always have, but when we ask them to recall these, it might be a little too soon for a new therapist. Finally, integration with the BACB task list items. This is where I'll kind of break it down even more with how this ties in with my intervention. So develop tactics for training staff to competently perform intervention procedures. I covered this in the behavior skills training model, but we like that the most for training staff because it provides them with many opportunities to contact the procedure without before actually having to implement it themselves. And I like the practicing before getting to the client. Performance monitoring and feedback. So we like to use the feedback sandwich to deliver reinforcement, which is we surround criticisms with reinforcement. So an example is, I really like how provided this non-contingent reinforcement, but I also saw that you are blocking. And we don't block his behavior because this increases, you know, um, instances of the behavior due to the attention aspect. But you followed the intervention well. Um, Develop a functional assessment approach to identify variables affecting personnel performance. So we can use methods such as performance diagnostics, the IOA data, self-assessments, and direct observations. We want to be consistent across our therapists and make sure they are performing it correctly, or else we can, see differences that may possibly bring the behavior back up and it won't be decreasing as much. Um, and then the last task list item we have is determine what function-based strategies to improve personnel performance. So determining what functions drive staff behavior allows supervisors to find reinforcers that will increase performance. And this can be done through interviews and questionnaires. I think it's very important to ask staff for how they like to receive feedback and as well as what reinforces them and drives their behavior. If someone is, tangible, access to tangibles, they're not as reinforced as the person who likes the social verbal praise. So, we can't always be giving tangibles, but there is a way to work that in to interventions that can help the therapists better perform for us. Thank you. Have a good night.